we're talking about our Asian American scars here. Do you think it's
Yeah.
been helpful, like the upbringing? Like it's just you're never good enough, right? You got to go to Harvard. This it's like look at this kid, look at this kid. There's not like, hey, look at this amazing thing you do. It's just like no. Even if you did something good, it's like you still kind of suck.
Well, it's really hard to say. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who's like a very high achiever. And I was asking him because he has a kid. I was like, oh, are you going to be like a tiger dad? And he was like, yeah, kind of. And I was like, whoa, really? Because frankly, if I ever had a kid, which, I probably wouldn't, which is a whole other topic. If I ever did have a kid, I'd just be like super chill. And he was like, well, look how I turned out. Like, yeah, I was like miserable, but I like accomplished all these things. And I was like, and it sort of goes to your point. It's like, people are like, wow, like, yeah, you like went through all this misery, but like you seem to be doing well, don't you? And it goes to this like broader existential question, which is just like, what's like the meaning of life? Like, I don't think in an existential philosophical point, there is any inherent meaning. You get to choose. And if your meaning in life is like he or she who dies with the most toys wins, then like maybe, yeah, this is the way you want to raise yourself to be raised and raise others. But if your meaning is a little bit different, which for me, it's more around I wanted to do the things that I want to do, which requires recognizing they might not be the things society wants me to do. Well, then, the upbringing I went through clearly helped make me who I am today, but it's not the same behaviors and rules that I want to follow going forward.
Yeah, I feel like I think I'm a little older than you. You're what, late 20s?
Actually, I'm 32 years old.
32.
What
Okay,
about
so
yourself?
I'm 37.
Yeah.
So I think I'm growing to
We're
appreciate
both
it more.
Asian, so we both look younger than we
Yeah,
are.
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We still you look like you're definitely in your 20s. I get 28 sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
But my point is like I used to resent my parents for like all
Yeah.
the pressures, right? And just like I don't want to do what I don't want to do, right? And like the only reason I graduated from like UCSD is because like they wanted a diploma, right? But now I'm like, you know what? I think all that pain and suffering, like, sure it strained the relationships, but it's like I think net it was a win. So, maybe it was a good thing.
I think if it related to that, I think of it as, was it good or was it bad? I don't know. But it's the path I took to who I am today. And if the path were different, I don't know if my life would be better or worse, but I wouldn't be who I am today. And like on the whole, well, like sometimes I'm miserable and I'm always very stressed. I'm generally okay who I'm being today. So I think that to reconcile the classic question of like, was it worth it? Basically comes down to like, how do you feel about your life overall? And if on the whole, you're like, okay, like I'm here and I like being me, then I think it does become a sort of like, well, that was a needed part for me to become who I am today. But, I think there are a lot of people, and there are moments I felt like this too in my life where I'm like, no, this feels terrible. Then I think that's where the resentment comes from more.
Got it. So I guess you mentioned, I'm trying to understand your philosophies more. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So why no kids?
So, well, for the longest time growing up, I thought to myself, hey, like, I don't necessarily feel like resentment toward my parents anymore because I recognize they did the best they could and this is what they wanted for me. And like I said, it's because of them that I've turned out the way I am, right? But for a long time, I also was like, okay, well, like, I can't say I'm like very happy, or rather was very happy during certain periods. During certain periods of my life, I was very depressed. I was like very, very unhappy, right? And like, sure, quote unquote, it seems to be working out, we think, right? We're always looking at like, yeah, a static dot in like the tableaus of our life, right? But like certain times I was like, well, I almost would have preferred like not to have been born at all. And not in like a like depressed, like, oh my God, like I don't want to exist anymore way. More like I think when you have a kid, it's so hard to be a good parent. And I think everyone's trying their best. And I think there are ways to be a parent where your kid will have a life where they feel more free and secure, and ways where they won't. And I look at this from the POV of like, if you're not confident you can give your kid like a secure, positive life, do you really want to have a kid? And my co-founder disagrees with me very much, very, very much. My co-founder absolutely wants to have kids. Like he sees it as like part of his moral imperative to bring kids into this world, right? And there are many people in popular culture who've spoken similarly about this mission, right? Again, I'm an existentialist. I don't think there's inherent meaning in life. I don't think I have a mission to bring someone into this world. I think the meaning in life is exactly what I choose it to be. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to have a kid if I don't think I could be the best, most amazing parent that I could be to that child. And for many years, I was like, no, I don't think I would do a good job, honestly, because I'm still trying to figure myself out. As I get older, that allows a little bit more like, oh, I think I'd probably be better. And like, sure, I'm more open to it. But I'm still not necessarily like, yeah, I'm confident I'd be a great dad. And so if like, I'm not confident I'd be a great dad, why would I ever want to have a kid? Why would I want to bring somebody into this world?
Were you ever
I'm not gonna
confident
be
you'd
there?
be a good founder?
No. And I'm still
There you
not
go.
sure. Yeah. And I'm still not sure I'm a good founder, right? But I think the difference is, and well, two points. One, that is definitely a big source of my stress, because when it's just you and your co-founder and you're just fucking around, it's like great. But at this point, like we've raised over $100 million. We have investors, we have clients, we have team members, right? It sucks because if you fail, that means people lose their money, people lose their trust in you, people lose their service, people lose their jobs. And you know, my co-founder, we take full responsibility for it. So it's very, very stressful. Now think about having a kid. Like in some ways, it's a whole nother degree of that same, well, guess what? If you're not a good dad, like, cool. Like you've brought somebody into this world who you may have inflicted additional pain and misery. And like, I don't want that.
You know, I heard this. We did this this entrepreneurs program in, I think it was at MIT. So we finished up in Boston. It was like 3 years ago. We did for 3 years, sorry. And then I was with a group of parents. So one guy's like 6 years old, and then he has like 5 kids. And then another gal, she has like a 21-year-old. I was like, I don't have any kids, right? But I'm like, look, in order to have a kid, like I feel like my job is to like make, you know, help my kid be happy. And they're like, we used to think that too, but that's not true. Our only job now, what we realized after having kids is like, it's just to help them survive. Like give them the tools they need to survive, and then however happy they are, that's like their problem. I was like, oh, that's interesting perspective.
It is an interesting POV, because I think it really comes down to a scarcity versus abundance mindset. And Maslow's pyramid, his hierarchy of needs, where like the hierarchy, the way it works, right? At the very bottom, it is just about survival. It's like, here's like food and water and shelter. And then like one level up is like, do you have friends? And like the eventual highest level is like self-fulfillment. For me, I think everyone has the right to choose like how they want to raise their kids. For me, I don't want to bring a kid into this world if the main goal I have for them is survival, because I'd rather not bring one into the world at all. If I'm going to bring a kid into this world, I want to help them reach self-fulfillment.
What does that look like?
Feeling that they have a really good sense of themselves and the internal self-esteem and freedom to pursue the things they care about, even though it might fail and it might not immediately or ever be conventionally successful.